I think because with comics, I believe comics are our modern mythology. That's become our modern mythology, and I think the reason why you reboot stuff is everybody's comic is their first comic, someone's first, because so they'll have to kind of do the origin 600 times just because there's people that go, I don't know anything about Batman or something. But let's get back to the Turtles. Creators of the like what let's talk about the toys. I kind of made some notes, but uh, the action figures in June of 1988 sold like crazy.
Okay.
So the show came out in '87, so that was a big time, and that was the year I was born. So I'm like, so Turtles kind of, and I think that's the reason why I'm such a fan of Turtles now is that kind of thing.
Yeah, you're sort of like intertwined from birth a bit.
Yeah, I mean, you grow up on something, and that's the kind of thing. I think the toys made over like $1 million, and the creators made so much money off of the toys as well.
Right. Yeah.
So what was your thoughts on kind of the like? I feel looking at the kind of going back to the films. We talked about 2 and we talked about 1, and what was your thoughts on 3? Do you feel like 3 was just so rushed and it was just like just put them in Japan, don't give them another character kind of thing?
Gosh, I guess to be honest, I don't know if I even remember 3. I know I've seen it.
It was the one where they go to Japan. Yeah, it's
seen it since I was a kid.
But you can tell the second one probably you get more memory from the first 2 than the third one.
Yeah.
And I feel like and I was kind of surprised that they were worried that the creation of the movie would ruin their brand. The creators thought that.
But yeah, I think they were talking about just the difference in tone between the how dark the first movie was and then the TV show there would be like a clash and would.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like that was sort of yeah, you're kind of right, and I think, and it was kind of surprising that Eastman and Laird had a falling out, and they kind of reconsidered everything in this document, or reunited, yeah. Let's see, Jim Henson, the Muppets guy, created the turtle suits, and do you think they still hold up to this day?
I think so.
I do too. Yeah. I think I feel like the first one, the heads were a little bit big. Right. I mean, each of them, I think they kind of, the eyes in the third one were very more expressive. The second one, because you could kind of tell that it wasn't quite. It was kind of in the middle between, expressive and stuff. Let's see. Then at the time when this movie came out, the first film, it was like the biggest grossing of an independent film ever at the time,
to hear that too,
which was kind of surprising at the time, and and you kind of think, and I think that's why, and so one of the reasons why I think the Turtles last for so long is that people they talked about in the documentary. Kids that grew up on Ninja Turtles have kids of their own, and they're kind of giving them into it. Whether it's the Nickelodeon show, and we'll get to the Michael Bay. You want to now? Let's talk about the kind of briefly TMNT. Did you ever watch the animated movie?
Is that one of the more recent ones?
That came out in 2007.
No, I haven't seen any.
I watched it, and what I liked about but it was good because they kind of separated everybody, all the turtles. They separated the turtles into like different. Michelangelo is a clown doing some stuff. Uh-huh. Leonardo is off looking for somebody. Raph is a vigilante. Donatello is working at a computer thing, and then they have to bring them all back together. The Shredder's not in it. It's a different villain. And April O'Neil is in it. She's actually voiced by Sarah Michelle Gellar. And Casey Jones was voiced by a then unknown Captain America, but Johnny Storm himself, as Chris Evans. So
okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's you kind of see the things, and I feel like the toys, or not the toys, but I feel like the movies, I still like. I mean, the '90s films still hold a place in my heart.
Right.
And and I feel like so I still have something about it, but but then I feel like Michael Bay, who produced the Ninja Turtles, did the first Ninja Turtles with Megan Fox. Did you see that movie at all?
No, I haven't seen.
Okay, so I'll go through it because I saw it, and they didn't take the love. I think once they made the second one, Out of the Shadows, they did a decent job, but it was kind of dark. The turtles were too big. They weren't. They were aliens.
Oh, they were aliens?
That's what Michael Bay said they were. But in the movie, he says, so they actually make fun of it and said, so they are mutants? So are they aliens? He's like, no, and April O'Neil said, no, that's stupid. They're mutants, but I do have to say, the characters are like, Leonardo is, the leader, Donatello does, there's that still core thing is still there. But once they made the sequel, I think it's directed by a new director, and he brought, I think it was what fans wanted, but it wasn't quite what fans wanted. It was sort of like they were kind of happy for what they got, but I think they weren't satisfied. Okay. And I liked the second one. They brought Bebop and Rocksteady.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And
I remember being disappointed in the second one where they had to
like Toka and Razor.
Yeah, they're sort of like these second rate.
Yeah, well, and they probably didn't have the rights at all, at the time or something. But like, I feel like the second one was better. I like how the second one worked. The Out of the Shadows worked a little bit better than the Ninja Turtles, the first one.
Okay. Well, out of all the movies, which one is your?
The second one, Turtles 2: Secret of the Ooze.
Okay. Just
because I think it hit me at the right time.
Right.
I think it's the same thing. I think it's the same thing when you watch a movie. When you get a certain age, there's that movie you can like keep watching 400 times to the point someone could say, "This is the stupid." You need to find another movie to watch, kind of thing. Right. And part of it is it was at my grandmother's house, kind of thing. Right. But and then let's talk about The Next Mutation. If you remember that show, they kind of mentioned it on the.
Yeah, they mentioned it in the Toys That Made Us documentary, and then actually
I've watched it too.
Okay. I don't think I ever watched it.
So
I didn't really
apparently they didn't have Shredder. They had like a creature called Dragon or Dracone or something like that. And because I think it actually was on Netflix for a while, and it lasted one season. So it was. I've got friends that do a podcast called Cancel Too Soon, so it's probably one of those shows that they'll cover one day. And there's no April O'Neil, but they brought a female turtle, and let's talk. And in the documentary, they were like kind of surprised that they were gonna do a female turtle.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's really what killed it. I don't know. To me, like a lot of the turtles, for me, I don't know. I love the villains. So
yeah.
Like hearing they got rid of Shredder, and like I don't know, like why would you?
Well, Shredder's such a villain. Such an iconic villain. You kind of put Green Goblin with Spider-Man, Joker with Batman, Shredder with the Turtles.
And then my favorite Krang, just sort of like
just
just his voice and
yes,
such, I don't know.